We've got we're going to talk about the Syracuse game, kind of the aftermath of that. We'll talk a little bit about Wisconsin. And we're going to talk about our Boilermakers. And we've got a great guest with us tonight. We have our normal crew, as always, minus Chris. He's out tonight, said his router took a nosedive. But got a great guest with us tonight, former Purdue Boilermaker, Jacob Thieneman. Jake, thanks for coming on the show, man. We're super excited to have you here.
Yeah, man, appreciate you guys having me on. Excited to get into some Purdue football.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you said before we went live, you said you were at the Syracuse game and everything, and so you got to see. I feel like Ross 8 is kind of becoming infamous or famous a little bit for their night game atmosphere. I mean, so what did you think? Was it, did it live up to par? You saw the tunnel and everything. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. I got to walk through the tunnel for the first time. Got to see the completed stadium. So that was really awesome to see. I love that it is completed. It feels like way bigger when you're on the field. Plus, having the fans in the south end zone just adds a lot to it. So the setup of the stadium was awesome. The night game environment is pretty crazy. Like we're known for that. We've had a lot of big upsets, especially on night games. So it's always a crazy environment. So I mean, it was fun to come back for a little bit. That was my first time seeing Dylan play in person. And so that was really exciting too. Yeah. I mean, at Purdue, of course, like I've been seeing him growing up. First two games I was catching on TV. I live out in Denver. So I was watching on TV from out there, but yeah, man, it was good to get back on campus. It felt great.
Right on. Well, I already broke my own rule. I said before we went live, I said that I would, thank our sponsors and partnerships. So I'm going to go ahead and do that before I get any farther. I want to say a big shout out to our partnership over at Big Banner Sports. Check them out at bigbannersports.com. They've got a podcast for every school, football, basketball, you name it. A lot of really good content out there, very up and coming. And I think a lot of good things are going to be coming from Big Banner within the next year here or so. So lots of good stuff coming out of there. I also want to say a big shout out to our sponsors at Blitzboards, which I'm actually going to go. There's one right behind Dylan. I'm going to grab mine and kind of do a close up because these things are just incredible.
They're not light at all. They're heavy.
It's just fantastic. I don't know how well you guys can hear me or not, but the quality is just incredible on these things. It's a really cool game. We've been talking your ears off about it. It's kind of it's with dice. But I mean, tailgates, parties, family events, whatever it is, you can use these. And they're very, I don't know what the right word is, like movable or just, they're easy to take with you somewhere. So just knocked over a cup. It's fine.
I'd say that did not sound good. That didn't sound good at all.
I have no idea what you guys are saying, so be nice. I didn't have a headset on there. But yeah, no, I mean, we got to meet the Blitzboards guys, or I got to meet the Blitzboards guys this weekend, and Nick, Jordan, what they had a nickname for one of the other guys. I think they called him like Crowley. Yeah, that was his name. Crowley, and Crowley's where I'm from as well. So shout out to Crowley. But really great guys. I mean, they make a fantastic product. Yeah, super
Nick
fun.
Nick delivered mine to my office. That was the best part. There was no shipping involved, nothing. He just brought it by himself.
Absolutely. And it's not just Purdue stuff either. Like if you have a favorite professional sports team, the Colts, the Cowboys, I mean, the Bengals, if you're into that sort of thing or whatever, they can do pretty well anything. It was funny. I was talking to Nick, the guy from Blitzboard this week, and he goes, he's like, I hope and pray we get a cease and desist letter soon. He's like, because then I know we've made it. Go give him some love.
Existence.
Go give him some love. Get a Blitzboard, and also have a really good time. I played with my daughter whenever we got home. Whenever I got home from the game on Sunday. So yeah, I mean it's a great investment for sure.
Good time.
So, but yeah, guys. So this Syracuse game. Sold out crowd, 61,000 plus people. Me and Chris were there in person. It was an electric atmosphere. It was absolutely incredible. We were actually pretty close to the tunnel. So that was Chris's first time seeing the intro and everything. But how did it look on TV for anybody that was watching at home?
Definitely not as cool as the first game, but still pretty nice.
Really? I felt like it would have been cooler with it being a night game.
Well, it just like that first game, you kind of had that steady cam shot of the whole team coming down the tunnel. You had Walters, hyping everybody up, and it was more of like just kind of cutting it out. You could see the flashing lights and all that, but the crowd wasn't mic'd though. It was really hard to hear the crowd, which was kind of lame. But like, what was the atmosphere like for those of you who were there?
Yeah, Jake, you take it away. You were there.
Yeah, I mean, it was what you'd expect from a night game, man. It was intense. Both teams brought the energy. Like, I think the guys came out pretty strong, and it was going back and forth really fast. You know, you mentioned not being able to hear the crowd noise on TV. That's kind of disappointing, man, because the crowd noise in person is what makes the environment so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I remember in particular when Card ran it in to cut the lead down from 21 to 7 to 14-21. And just that place erupted, man. It was right down on near the south end zone, or no, the north end zone, which is where we were at. And the place was electric. Like it was like so loud that you kind of like hardly hear, if that makes sense. Like it was kind of like that level of loud. And yeah, everybody was awesome and the fans were into it. You know, a couple positives before we, get into it though. You know, there were some hiccups during this game. We're not gonna pretend like this was a perfect game by any means, but like if you guys could take like one or two positives from the game, you know, what were some of those for you?
Pass protection. Comparatively speaking to the other games, you know, Carb was only under pressure in 20% of plays, and coming into that game, it was 40% on the season.
Okay.
So that was like one positive takeaway. I felt like the offensive flow was there, just couldn't put any points on the board.
That's what Jake Frank is like our we call him like a big brain is what we
the biggest brain,
the stat tank, because
I see his name of the stat tank, man. Is he always got the numbers on ready to go?
Oh yeah, and it's great too because he'll come in here and like we were talking before we went live, you know, he was talking about how much the offense improved and did well, and I was talking about how Chris even said, yeah, Card threw for like 325 yards, and I was like, well, it sure didn't feel like it. You know, because we had those fumbles and everything, and they were just at like the worst time. I know there's never a good time for a fumble to happen, but it was like right when we're marching down the field, we're in the red zone, and one of those would pop out. But yeah, I mean, now,
and that's the tough part about those turnovers too, is because it just takes all the energy out of the team. That was kind of my impression from the offense. Is like you said, like the stats were there. It wasn't like they were doing terrible. We just didn't have a lot of juice. We looked like we were almost a little too scared to make a mistake instead of trying to make that play. And so I think it was hard to get a lot of stuff going. It wasn't that we were doing terrible. It's just we didn't have that energy, that juice. And then those couple turnovers just really hurt us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will say I liked, because one of the things I said to Chris at halftime, I was like, okay, you know, we hadn't seen Card really make like a big mistake yet. So like, let's see how he bounces back. How does this team respond to some adversity that they went through in the first half? And I thought they responded really well. You know, unfortunately, kind of the fumbles and stuff continued in the second half, but I mean, they continued to march down the field. They put themselves right back in the game in the fourth quarter, where, you know, some people were kind of clearing out of the stadium because they maybe thought it was over. But Purdue kept chipping away, and unfortunately it got away from them there at the end. But yeah, I think, you know, their resiliency in the second half, even though it didn't turn out the way we wanted it to, I thought that was a great thing to look at. So,
I mean, are we going to talk about the overreaction on Twitter?
Well, before we get into the negatives, I did have one more positive.
Okay. All right, good.
And I actually had this positive written down before we knew who our guest was tonight. But a certain free safety, 12 tackles, 3 assists, only 1 missed tackle. You know, Jake, what's it like seeing your brother play? Let's start there for a second.
Shoot, man, it's a dream come true. I mean, this is what we worked for. So, I mean, playing myself is fun, and I loved it. Watching my brothers play and make plays it might be even more fun. Just we've known, you know, Dylan was kind of coming, you know, he was kind of on his way, and we've known what he could do. And so we were really excited for him to get on the field and kind of show that. And so, you know, he's come on the scene in a big way these first couple games, and he's made a lot of noise for himself. Everyone's really excited about that. All of us behind the scenes, man, we've been waiting for this for a long time, because we knew what he had going on. So yeah, dude, watching him get out there and start to make those plays, and what he's done in just these first 3 games has been insane in terms of like putting his name on the map, making a name for himself, and what he's been able to do as far as like impacting the defense. The scheme that they run is like perfectly designed for him in the back there.
Right. Yeah.
He's super deep, but he's got the speed to kind of run sideline to sideline and basically just take anything out over the top. And so that's where we've just got to get the guys underneath to make sure that, you know, everything's tightened down, which we're very close defensively. It may not have felt like that Saturday, but it was really just a few minor things. It wasn't anything too major. But yeah, once we get those things tightened up, we'll be good to go.
And the reason I bring up the only one missed tackle is that was kind of a big theme on the night. Guys would get hands on Schrader, just couldn't take him down. And I won't mention any names, but you can go back and watch the film. I mean, there one player with 4 missed tackles, 2 players with 3. So for him to only have 1 and lead the team in tackles for the game is very impressive. Quick trivia question: in your career, Jake, you had 130 tackles. Do you know how many missed tackles that you had?
Man, I don't focus on the negatives, just the positives.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Well, only 12, which is really, really good.
Dang.
Only 12. Yeah. 1,808 snaps, only 12 missed tackles. So it runs in the family.
Insane.
Must run in the family. Yeah.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
Nice.
I've heard people. So it's kind of like in Purdue, like I don't even know what you want to call it, folklore, mythology. Like there was always the Anthrops, and I feel like now the Thienemans are like right there. It's definitely like the Thienemans and the Anthrop families are our constant source of like our rocks, our anchors, and yeah, it's so cool to see.
It's funny, we've had because we're like, of course, played with Danny and Jackson, so pretty good friends with them, and we've had a few discussions about who's the Purdue sports first family. There's some competition going back and forth there a little bit.
I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, the Colvins are involved a bit now too. So
who's that? Russ?
I think I'm
Russ,
having some
wake up.
issues.
You there?
Sorry. I said the Colvins are kind of involved now too with that.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the Colvins,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're multi-sport too. They're all over the place. So yeah, absolutely.
Rosie had him some athletic children. Good Lord.
So we talked about, the positives and everything of that Syracuse game. And Dylan, you mentioned kind of the, I think Boiled Sports even too, it was like Purdue's 1-2 and we're all freaking out or something. That was like their caption of their podcast this week. And, in Purdue fan fashion, Twitter had a little bit of a meltdown. Dylan, you had some thoughts on that?
Well, see, I get being mad your team lost. Like that's normal. But I saw a tweet where a guy was like, none of us should show back up to Ross 8 all year. And I'm like, buddy, relax. Like take a step back and think about what you're saying. Or what got me is when they're comparing Walt to Hazel. And I'm like, what do you even mean? Like this dude's coached 3 games in his entire head coaching career. And you're going to compare him to the worst coach in program history. Like that's so unfair to Coach Walters. And the whole don't show up for the rest of your Ross 8, buddy, get lost, like get out of here. I think that's so ridiculous. And like I said, it's normal to be upset that your team lost, whatever.
Right.
But to take it to the extreme of comparing a guy that's coached 3 games to the worst coach in program history and saying, hey, quit showing up to games and maybe that, it just, no, man. Like there was
like,
a whole
I don't
lot
even know
of,
what the thought process is on that. It's like, yeah, that's going to light up. That's going to, us not showing up is going to determine how hard or good this team plays. Like that makes no sense at all whatsoever.
Then they'll play harder and win when nobody's there. Yeah. Totally.
yeah. If everything's quiet and nothing's going on, then they'll play well. It's like, what do you do?
When what was some of the sweet justice behind that was Walter saying tonight on his radio show that the atmosphere had a lot to do with a couple of recruits that we had commit this past weekend too. Which, again, just stop with those takes. No one wants to hear that.
And I think the renovations too, man, like I haven't seen it in person yet. I'm hoping to make it to the game Friday. But I think the south end zone compared to what it was, Tent City was terrible. This new one, amazing. And I think the NBC, for one, it was weird watching Purdue play on NBC. I don't know why. But the overhead camera, when they would zoom into the south end zone, was so good. Everything looks so complete and nice. And so, yeah, the environment is, especially in college football. I mean, you can say what you can about NFL environments, but college football environments are where it's at. And so if you're going to say don't come to games, you're kind of really hurting. If not, you're not helping nothing. I mean, it's just none of it makes sense. I had to log off Twitter for like 4 hours and just call it a day.
That's what I think I said in our group chat. I was like, I think there needs to be like if we lose, there needs to be like an automatic like X or whatever just doesn't work on your phone for like the next 12 hours.
Yeah.
Like just nobody log on. Nobody like you can think a lot of stupid things, but you don't have to say it for all the world to see.
See, and that's like we were talking before the show started. Is that's why we started this podcast, because we're not going to sit here and spout some crazy nonsense like that. We're going to be as positive as possible. We're not going to be dragging players or coaches or any of that. Like, I don't know, these players are kids, and I've never understood. Like, I've sat around adults the years I've had season tickets, and they're like, that number whatever can't do this. And I was like, kid's 18, like, relax. Like, this kid can't even live on his own quite yet. Like, let's give him a break. Like, it just drives me especially when it's like grown adults.
I really appreciate you guys putting out all the positivity and starting this podcast around that. My first 3 years at Purdue as a walk-on was in the Hazel era. And so it was obviously not a great time to be a Purdue Boilermaker playing football. And so felt a lot of that energy from the fan base a lot of the time. And so, obviously we've turned things around. It's a totally different program, but the putting out that positive message is it really means a lot, especially the players. And so I just appreciate you guys for doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
On that subject, what a lot of the players right now are currently dealing with this, but what's it like playing, during a coaching change?
It's interesting because like everything changes. So you're still a Boilermaker. Outside of that, your day-to-day, your procedures, the schedule, everything is completely different. So just like an example, they do morning practices now instead of evening practices. That completely flips your entirely daily schedule and how you plan out your whole week. Just the energy and everything that it brings. Of course, like for the guys that were there, everyone starts with a clean slate. So what you did before, the player you were before, is kind of thrown out the window, and you've got to prove yourself again to an entirely new coaching staff. And so the first spring ball with the new coaching staff is intense. I'd say it's about as intense as fall camp because, again, it's like everybody's competing for a spot again.
Yeah. I can't even obviously I can't imagine what that's like at all. But I imagine too, like the morning practices, that just makes sense that's probably like in some ways better just because you've got more energy in the morning. It's like the first thing you do. So it's not like you went to class all day, you've done all these things throughout the day, and it's like, okay, now I got to go work my ass off for another 3 hours and then probably go do some homework after that. It's like, you knock it out at the beginning of the day and then you've got your whole day ahead of you. But does anybody else have any thoughts on Syracuse or anything like that?
I mean, my main takeaway is that, as Jake said, we're close, like really, really close. And it's not, I know there was a lot of negativity about the offense, but like, outside, I feel like the offense moved the ball pretty well. I just feel like a lot of that really isn't warranted or justified at this point. I mean, it's just way too early to have any serious thoughts about really anything, any aspect about the team. But I just think that there's just a lot of overreaction. I would rather have things like, just some sloppiness versus like the scheme being an issue. It doesn't seem like that's the case at all. We do have a viewer comment here. What's up, BXP from the Blitzboard guys? So
hey, what's up? Shout out to our great sponsors. We were I don't know if you saw the beginning of this podcast, Nick, but we were singing y'all's praises, man. I've actually got my Blitzboard right here. That's the back of it, but I was showing everybody and talking about how awesome it is and everything. And so, to that, talking about the overreactions and everything too, I think that I've seen a lot of, people talking about specifically Graham Harrell and how it's time to change some play calls and stuff like that. And, I agree with you, Frank. I think there was a lot of overreaction. I think a lot of people are focusing on the turnovers and the fumbles and putting that on the offensive coordinator when, I think those were just really unfortunate things that happened. Saturday, I don't think that was any play calls, that caused that issue. I think it was just kind of from my fan perspective anyway. I think that the offense, like I was saying, Chris on the way home was like, yeah, Card threw for 325 yards. And I was like, it didn't feel like that, but that's awesome. That's great. And I think even Card you said in the post-game presser that they're getting close to being good and getting things rolling. So
yeah, I think you said we're really close to being a good team. And I do want to address Cody's comment here. He says, hello, everybody. Cody, last week, I believe it was last week, you asked if you could buy the crew a beer. I was not at the game. Did you follow through on that one? I would love to know the answer to that.
I didn't see it. No, I didn't get to run into Cody. I saw the DM way too late. He had messaged us and said to meet him in Northwestern, and I was already. So I parked at I'm not gonna dox Chris and where he lives or anything. But let's just say I parked at Chris's house and then I walked all the way to RV Lot 4, which was about 3 miles, about a 3 mile walk. And so by the time I got all the way to RV4, I saw the message and I was like, well, I'm sorry, I don't want to walk all the way back to.
Like, good news is there's more football and more beer to be had. So
that's right.
A few more comments here. We got a comment here from a gentleman named Russ. We were better offensively on third down than either of the last 2 weeks. We were 25% in week 1, 41% against Virginia Tech, 50% against Syracuse.
Yo, well, Russ, if you had good internet, you'd be able to be on the show. But
pull up that newest comment here from Blitzboards. Shout out to Cody for buying a Blitzboard today. Let's go. Yeah, that's awesome. What design did you go with, Cody? Because they're very flexible. They can pretty well do anything that you ask. So that's
I designed White Trash Pete, and they even put that on a Blitzboard. So,
wait, do you have that right now?
No, I don't. No, they haven't made it yet. But he made the.
No, I mean, like, do you have the picture of White Trash Pete?
I don't know if I do or not.
Yeah,
hold on.
I was gonna say you should show that to
graphic.
The
graphics department.
Before we get into Wisconsin, Jay, question for you: what's your favorite memory as a Purdue football player? On the field, off the field, whatever.
It's a great question. It's a great question. There's a few. I don't know if I can pick a favorite. There's a few moments that really stick out. So the first moment is going to be starting against Louisville and Lucas Oil, and the reason that one's so special was like that was my second start, but it was the first start of the season. It was my first start being named the starter on scholarship at that point. And so that was just like really affirming for me in my journey. Plus had a ton of family at the game. I'm from Indy. And so that was just like a big moment. Then I would say second one is going to be at the end of that season in the bowl game, at the end of the Foster Farms Bowl, when I caught the pick to close out the game. That one was super exciting as well.
That's got to feel so like full circle. I can't even imagine.
It was crazy. Yeah. The story, it was a crazy story. And just the way it shook out too. And just the story within the Foster Farms game. Cause like I got, there was a little rockiness in there with how I was playing like mid game. Like I got jacked up and knocked out with the shoulder injury, had to leave. They come in and score. And then I come back in, we have some miscommunications. They score again right after halftime when we were up like 2 scores. And so then it got back into like a close game, and then we ended up pulling away and closed it out. So it was that one was a crazy game. That one was cool to close out.
Yeah, I actually remember that interception very well. I had a friend who was in town from Washington, and we watched that together. That was like that like sealed the game. But like that was I always remember that as the Gregory Phillips game. It was him, right, who just like went off in that game.
I think it was Mahungu.
They both
had really good games. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was like Gregory Phillips is on another level. But yeah, that sealed the game. I was at that Louisville game. I'm actually from Louisville. I live there currently. So I grew up in a Purdue/Louisville household. So that was a fun game to go to. Also remember that game is the coming out game for Jackson Anthrop as well.
Mm-hmm. He had a big one that time. He had 2.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns. Yeah.
And then of course the biggest game of my career was that Ohio State game. So nothing.
Speaking my language.
Nothing compared to that one, man.
Jake, I live in Ohio.
Was there for that one too.
Deal with those people all the time. Whenever Purdue beats Ohio State in literally anything, I come home talking mad amount of trash.
Dude, so I lived with Marcus Bailey at the time, and of course that was the Marcus Bailey game, right? He had 15 tackles in that pick 6, and he's from Columbus.
Yeah.
So he had all his Columbus friends in town staying at our place, and so there was just like a lot of energy around that. And so dude, when we pulled that off. That one was pretty legendary. We'll never forget that night.
I think somebody, if I'm not mistaken, I think somebody like lit a couch on fire somewhere in West Lafayette, like just celebrating,
man.
After, I forgot the Ohio podcast was in here listening.
Oh,
sorry,
speaking
guys.
of, yeah. Whoops, sorry guys. You know, come on, Eric. You know you love.
We have a really interesting viewer question here, which I'd like to address real quick here. Who wins a foot race between the Thieneman brothers if you all raced at 18 years old?
Oh, there we go.
Oh, man. I think we all know the answer to this one. It's a pretty clear winner, and it's not Brendan or I.
Dylan's
I thought you were going to be like, yeah, it's me. I thought
I thought it was going.
Dylan, I mean, because I got to see him play at Virginia Tech. We were at that game, and seeing him in person is just like, I mean, he is like the safety valve. I mean, and against Fresno State, I feel like they would have had 2 touchdowns if it wasn't for his speed. I mean, it's pretty crazy. He's an electric player. You taught him very well. We have another comment here. Let's see. My favorite hit that Jake had against OSU was sitting in the south end zone. You could hear the pop.
Let's go.
Do you recall the hit in the south end zone?
The south end zone. There was
so
one
many.
tackle. There was one tackle on like the third down, going out of bounds, but I don't know how big that was. I'd have to go back and check the tape. But back to the speed. The point about speed. You know, it's not that Brent and I are slow. We're actually pretty fast as well. Dylan just runs a 4.3 laser time, and that's next level speed.
Yeah,
that's speed you can't teach, and that's that next NFL speed.
Yeah, I remember Walters saying at the beginning of the year that him and Burks trade fastest times. Him and Burks go back and forth between who's the fastest on the field there. So yeah, it was just like I remember being at the Fresno State game, and like it was like watching it in slow motion. The pick that he had, because he's coming like completely from the other side of the field, and just like T-bones this wide receiver. Like the wide receiver had no clue he was there. Just boom, catches it, and then gets that foot down. It was insane. So
yeah, we went. Brennan and I. Funny story. We were so Brennan and I live in Denver. We live in a house together. We were on our way to Grand Junction to go dirt biking for Labor Day weekend. And so the game started at 10 o'clock our time, and we had to find a bar in Dillon, Colorado to watch this game at. And so we're calling all these sports bars trying to find a place that's open. We finally find a place that has the game on, and they put it on the TVs. And so that's where we're watching Dillon in that first game make those hits and then get that pick. And so we're going nuts in the sports bar at like noon. watching Dylan get these picks, man. It was pretty crazy.
Did you have to ask them like, hey, can you turn on the Purdue game? Where they just like, what?
Dude, so we called 10 bars,
gotcha.
And the 10th bar was like, yeah, this older lady. She was like, yeah, we can get it on. We got it for you guys. We walked in and it was on all 3 big screens. And she was like, yeah, I had it ready for you guys. Knew you guys were coming. I was like, let's go.
Hey, Dylan's a great name. What can I say? Yeah.
That's one thing. It's one thing I don't. I travel a lot. It's one thing I don't like about traveling, though. It's like it's hard to watch the Purdue game. I actually be in Denver in a few weeks. So there's one place I must go, bar, restaurant. What would you say in Denver?
I wouldn't go to restaurant. Honestly, I wouldn't go to Denver for the bar restaurant. So I'd get up the mountains.
I'm going for a Nuggets game. So that's that.
Okay.
That's mostly what's bringing me there. On
5430 is a cool rooftop bar.
5430. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write that down. Russ, now that you're back in, do you have anything you wanted to add about Syracuse?
So I will note that. Did you watch Trader's post-game interview? Any of y'all?
No, I didn't.
He one of the big things he said that stuck out to me was he said we did not play well on offense. You know, the majority of his rushing yards were on busted plays, and a lot of the first downs they picked up were on penalties. So our defense, like I agree with what y'all were saying, that our defense is very close. And I think our offense is similar. I think once we mix in our offense properly and use some of the weapons we have on offense properly, I think this team could really start clicking off some W's for sure. So I also noted a couple things that were kind of at this point in the season, now that we're like 3 games in, there's a couple things I saw on defense. Cam Allen got his 2nd pick of the year, right? So now he's at 12 for his career, which puts him 3rd all time in Purdue history in interceptions. Now, at the rate that Dylan's going, he's going to have like 40. So he's going to crush everybody's record. But for now, it looks like Cam Allen's, pretty close to getting top 2. And if he gets 5 more, he actually ties Stu by the end of the year. Also, Thieneman has, and I saw a bunch of different numbers depending on what website you looked at, so I don't know what the official stats are, but the Purdue website has him at 31 tackles, 26 solo. Do you know who his second and how many tackles they have?
I'm going to say like they have 12.
Yeah, it's Sanusi Kane with 12 solo and 15 total. So he's doubling up the next dude on our defense. So I wrote an article earlier in the year, actually before the season even started, that I thought Sanusi Kane could be a dark horse for Defensive Player of the Year, because I thought that was the role Sanusi Kane might play, because everything was kept close to the vest with Coach Walters. He didn't really give a lot of insight onto who would be playing where. Even when the depth chart came out, there was just 5 DB positions listed. So I think that Dylan Thieneman's a dark horse for possible not just freshman of the year on the defensive side, but defensive player of the year, because we aren't even in Big Ten play. And if we start clicking once Big Ten play starts this week, he could really put himself on the map.
Have you guys started to, it didn't happen for me until this morning, which it usually always does. But, you start listening to like, oh, we're really close. It's just this. It's not scheme. It's not scheme. It's just execution. Have you guys talked yourself into like, the season start off a little rocky, but maybe how like you get like your coach, first year they get it like a big. We talked about before the season started, they're going to win a game they shouldn't, or maybe won't, and then they'll lose a game they should have won. Do you guys think? Have you guys talked yourself into like maybe Walters is going to put his stamp on Purdue this year and take Wisconsin down on Friday? Is anybody talking, or is that just me? Because I was
I'd love to see nothing more than us destroying Wisconsin Friday.
Yeah.
So do you guys want to hear my path to 6 wins kind of spiel that I had put together?
I would love that.
Okay. So it's more about look at history. Look at just the last 6-7 years in our program, right? Brahms' first year, we started 3-4. We didn't know if we maybe make a bowl game that year or not. Then we all of a sudden, and we lost a close one at Rutgers. We lost a close one at home against Nebraska. But then we go win 3 of 4, even including like a loss at Northwestern that we would like to had, and then had a great bowl game, right? Then Brahms' second year, we go into that year and there's all the optimism, right? We got this kid named Rondale Moore. It's going to be a great year. We start 0-3, right? Lost to Eastern Michigan and the sky's falling. Oh man, it's another Daryl Hazel. Like, see, here we go. And then what do? We win 4 in a row, including that big game against that team out east that we won't name them since they're watching. We don't want to hurt their feelings again. But then we finished the game. We finished that season with the bowl game, right? Let's look at just 2 years ago, right? We started 3-2, including a tough home loss to Minnesota. Then we finished 9-4, including 2 AP top 5 wins, right? Last year, we also started 1-2, right? Then what did we do last year? We went to the Big Ten championship game. So this whole idea that the sky is falling, like, come on, it's a new offense, a new defense, new coaching staff, a lot of new faces. And we're still just like a few mistakes away from probably being 3-0. So the idea that all these people are jumping off the bandwagon is ludicrous.
So I'm not trying to like just sing Dylan's praises just because Jake, you're here on the podcast or anything. He's just a really good player, and you talked about solo tackles a minute ago, Russ, and so I looked up who's leading in NCAA Division I football right now in solo tackles. Sitting here at number 1 is looks like Dylan Thieneman at 26. Him and Hunter Voller from Wisconsin are tied at 26 right now. Which is wild, which I don't understand. So maybe I'm not looking at this right because it says number 3, Tyrese Knight, has 34. So I'm not sure how this is like calculated. Do you guys know what STPG? It's like, is it solo tackles per game? Oh, that's probably what it is. He's got 8.7 solo tackles per game right now. So he's leading the NCAA in solo tackles per game. And that's insane. And it's crazy because you look at this and it says freshman, and then it's junior, senior, junior, senior, junior. So, I mean, dude's just playing on another level. So, just a lot of fun. And I like Cody Abrams' comment earlier as well, just to fuel this flame that I'm feeling right now. And says, remember, fellas, Wisconsin's record in September is not the best. So, if we can just keep that train rolling,
there's always hope.
There's always hope. Yeah.
The thing about Wisconsin, they are like. Yeah. I think they had a coaching change since I've played, but they are like the most predictable team in college football. Them in Iowa. Like if you really study the film and look at them, like you kind of know exactly what they're going to do every play. And that's their MO, is they're just going to run power. They're just going to run power at you and make you stop it. So I think that we've got I like our matchup this week. I really like our defense against Wisconsin. So, I mean, we got the guys up front to do it too. So I think we can do some exciting things Friday.
Well, and interestingly, I was looking into their kind of run pass ratios earlier today. They're actually running only on 50% of plays this season, which they've been 60 plus the last 3 or 4 years. Again, I don't know if that's, a change with Fickle. I mean, they've got one of the best running backs in the country right now. I don't know how much of that's been their schedule. I know they really couldn't run the ball well against Washington State, but we have a brand new Wisconsin with all new faces, a whole new coaching staff, and a pretty shaken up Purdue as well. I mean, I don't know how to feel. I really don't know how to feel. I want to get my hopes up, but I'm also trying to stay grounded at the same time. But I'm with you, Jake. I would love nothing more than to, like, this is the game I want this season of all other games. I want to beat Wisconsin. I was at the Wisconsin game last year. Not a whole lot of fun. So I'd love to see him get this. So what do we have here? What's this comment?
Yeah, so this is from our sponsor Blitzboard. It says, I promise not to say anything to jinx us when we're winning Friday. The losing streak is 100% my fault. And so I have a story about this, which is Nick's story. But he was telling me, so it all started back in 2004, an infamous game against Wisconsin. Apparently, Nick and his buddies, they went to Purdue, so they're in the stands watching. And when it's 17-7 in like the beginning of the fourth quarter, I think he says, "Oh, it's the fat lady singing. The fat lady is singing." So he's already saying like Purdue's winning this game, like it's in the bag and everything. And obviously, we all know how that story ended with the Kyle Orton fumble and everything, and Wisconsin coming back to win. And then he also said it back in what year was it when we went to like double overtime with Wisconsin? Rondell Moore had that crazy spin move.
That was triple overtime.
Triple overtime.
I want to say 20.
It was 18.
18, 19. Yeah.
Yeah. So they were at that game as well. And Nick was doing the same thing. The fat lady singing, the curse is over, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like he may have just cursed us again by saying he promises not to say anything when we're winning Friday. But, I just thought that was a funny story.
Well, we know who to blame if we do. So
that's right. Absolutely.
Damn it, Nick.
So
I see the comment from Cincy Blitzboards about the NIL deal for DT. Man, I'm the guy to talk to about that, man. Hit me up. We can see what.
Let's make it happen. Let's do it. Look at that.
Nice.
He can be the first athlete of the Boiler Express.
Let's not do that, Cincy Blitzboard. That's a.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume there is a typo there. I'm going to assume that says "I'll shut up."
Did you see?
It's not a U.
What's Kurt Ferentz's son's name? That's offensive. What's his first name? Brian. He had a press conference the other day about the whole 25-point thing in his contract, and he told the press, he goes, "Why don't you all get a step ladder and climb out of my ass?"
No, that didn't actually happen. That was a voiceover.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was a voiceover.
Man. My dumb brain fell for that. I thought it was legit.
Dang, way to call him out on the podcast, Frank.
We all know I'm not the brightest, but that was a good fake. I mean, that was good work.
So Cody says, I hope we win because there's a bet between a friend and I that the losing team has to wear the winning team's jersey. Well, you've already broken the golden rule, Cody, and that is to never bet on Purdue. So
we have someone behind the scenes of the podcast that often breaks that rule, and we always shame them.
And I was talking to him at halftime Saturday, and he starts laughing. He goes, "You guys have no idea how much I bet on Purdue." He's like, "I've just never said anything."
God damn
it.
Nick. Yeah, Nick,
Damon, is this your first Wisconsin game since the Orton game?
Let me think. Let's see.
I had not at the triple overtime.
Maybe that could be helping break the curse.
No, I wasn't. I had season tickets in 2019. But I think they played at Wisconsin that year because 2018, you said they played at Purdue, or I don't know how the scheduling works, but I think this is my first Wisconsin game since that fateful night in 2004. So yeah, maybe it's time to, for some change. I would love that. Nothing more than that. So. And I think it'll just be so cool because not only is it like Purdue's 1-2, but also it sucks that we've just lost both games at Ross-Ade. So I just hate that for Walters and his team. But I'll let somebody else take this comment.
We have a comment here from the Noodle. They did something similar to this Iowa State's coach. I did see that one. He not a great look. A fan yelled something to the effect of like "You're in the hot seat" at him, and he like turned around and was like, "What'd you say?" and like had to be restrained and stuff. And so he.
Oh, that was fake as well.
No, that wasn't fake. But there was a press conference where he addressed him. And, like. No, there was this. Someone did a voiceover of him addressing what happened, and then he was like,
"Nothing's real anymore." I don't.
Yeah, nothing's real.
I don't even know if Jake's sitting here right now. This could be like somebody from like some other country that's just got the perfect deep fake going. Right now.
I'll send it to you.
Good.
I'll send it.
Give it 2 years, man. Those deep fakes will be crazy.
Dude, it's wild. AI is taking over.
I saw it on the
AI is
coming. Show. I thought
AI is getting better.
Russ, we'll replace you with AI here before we know it. But
Allen Iverson's going to be on the podcast. It's going to be freaking sick. Sorry, that was a really bad joke. I'm just going to.
Most people,
I liked it. I thought it was great.
Most college kids are going to be like, who the hell? Allen
Don't
Iverson.
talk down Andre Iguodala like that.
Right. What's that famous clip of it's like some voice clip of or soundbite of some guy saying like fourth quarter, game on the line, NBA title or NBA finals. He's like, but you tell me anybody in the Warriors, I'm picking it between Iggy or Curry. I'm picking Iggy every time. I can't remember who said that or what that was.
I think it was one of the guys that used to pop in on that show every once in a while.
I remember seeing that. I know the clip you're talking about. Freezing cold take.
Oh, real bad. They even had that one guy who said, Jordan, nice, better Russ's internet, not so much. Oh, that's. I mean, it's the truth, Russ. Eric got you there.
Valid.
So, Jake, one of our running like jokes here on the podcast is like, and Russ isn't even the oldest guy on our show. We just do hashtag Russ is old all the time and give him crap about being old, even though he's not.
There's been a few times that I say if you made it to the end of the podcast and you use the hashtag Russ is old, I'll give you like $5 or something. A few people have done it. It's very fun.
And so Blitzboard sent him a mock-up of a Blitzboard and had like AARP on there.
And he thought I set them up to do that, and I had nothing to do with that. I would take credit because it's a hell of a joke, but I can't take the credit.
I did tell them to hide somewhere hashtag Russ is old, so maybe that was their take on that. I was gonna have them like hide it under the Blitzboard just somewhere like really inconspicuous, but
then I'm more forgetful than Russ is, so it can be Russ can switch the tables once in a while.
Right.
Russ, why these guys keep coming at you, man?
I've had people like my family or friends listen to the podcast. Why do you pick on Russ? I said I don't pick on Russ. It's just it's a loving relationship. And there he goes.
He's gone now.
Right.
He can't handle it
and he's gone.
Well, let's dive into this Wisconsin team a little bit if you guys would like to. Let's see.
Give me the stats.
Yeah, let's do it.
So they beat Buffalo. They beat Buffalo 38-17. They did lose to Washington State 22-31. And they beat Georgia Southern 35-14. Anyone want to guess how Washington State beat them? What did they have to do to beat Wisconsin?
Stop the run.
They did. They stopped the run. Braylon Allen only had 20 yards in that game. Tanner Mordecai was actually the leading rusher. And they actually stopped the run using their strong safety. Purdue has a strong safety, is pretty good at run defense. So, that's something to keep an eye on in this game for sure. Russ, what do you think about this Wisconsin team? All right, Russ is
yeah. I think he fell asleep. I think he's all right.
The noodle says, if Russ is old, I'm Methuselah.
Yeah.
The noodle is young and spry. I don't care what he says. The noodle's son, I don't know if you guys follow him on Twitter, was in a real bad health predicament the night before the Syracuse game. Kid wakes up the next day and is like, let's go. And he's like, all right, let's make it. I was so stoked to see that he made the game because he was in a bad spot. But he said he woke up the next day, felt great, made it through the whole game, and it made me happy.
Dude, there was a fan at the Fresno State game that I think I texted you guys about that totally tugged at my heartstrings. So just me personally, I work with people in the autism community. And so there was this kid in front of me who was just, was having a really hard time with the sounds, the loud cheering and stuff like that, was crying during the game, was having a really hard time, but by God, he loved Purdue. And he was just on his feet cheering the whole time. He would cover his ears when it got really loud and had this tear rolling down. And I was like, dang, man, that kid is freaking awesome, because that sensory overload is a lot. And so for him to sit there and fight through that and just continue cheering on, I thought that was bad freaking ass. So
I had one
shout out to that kid.
Hey, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. You know them?
No, I don't. I just know the kid in front of me, man. But it was awesome to see him push through that and AOL dial.
Russ absolutely has an AOL email. Like my 65-year-old mother. I just said her age. She's probably not stoked about that, but she definitely still has AOL. I'll tell you that much. I'm gonna get a text after that. I doubt she watches. She doesn't.
That's all right. My wife has a live.com email at live.com.
What even is that? Never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. So
where did she find that?
But
hey, Russ, welcome back. Oh, it sounded like a little R2D2 we got going, and he's gone. All right.
What's up? Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
we'll see you later.
Yeah, we can hear you just
There we
fine.
go.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Can you hear us?
It's interesting because I'll say
Alright.
like 4 seconds later, I hear you react to it. So I know I'm messed up. Like,
That's great for a podcast. That's
Yeah, you
perfect.
are.
That's
I mean, that's
fantastic.
really the situation you want
Yeah.
to be in.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. Big
It's a real
delay.
shit show around here sometimes, Jake. You gotta.
Oh, there you go. You got some love from Cody. He says Russ is the
Oh.
GOAT. So
Cody, you were on the top of my
I
list.
will say Russ did get he was the first one of us. We were at the Virginia Tech game last week and he got recognized and was like, "Hey, you're the guy from that podcast."
You're
which
the
was
old guy.
crazy. So we got to give love to Russ where love is
It is
deserved,
still weird
so.
getting like people yelling at you at games. Like, oh, what's it? Like? I'm a big Rowdy fan, so I'm always asking where the hell's Rowdy. And at the Big Ten Championship, some guys like, where the hell is Rowdy? I'm like, I don't know, dude. I'm trying to find out. And then my seats just happened to be right behind Chuck T's seats, and I was like, Chuck, what's up, dog? That was so much fun. Even though Purdue lost, it was a good time. Anytime you get to hang out with Chuck for 4 quarters, that's a good time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For sure,
I remember
for sure.
when you weren't able to come to the Virginia Tech game, I texted him. I was like, "Hey, man, I know it's like the game's happening in like 12 hours, but we got a ticket with your name on it. You make it out here."
I think he was at the Syracuse game.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. I feel like that's one thing that's been, and I don't know if it's just happenstance, just a coincidence, but I feel like there's been a lot of Purdue football alumni at games recently. Like a lot of these guys that are, the honorary captains, I feel like I haven't seen, around Purdue in a while. So that's really cool that they're getting all these different people out here. And
Here's a good question, Jake. What's your thoughts on Shout?
On Shout? Oh, after the third quarter? I like it. If you're getting blown out, it's not the most exciting thing to be listening to as a player.
It's not the best thing to hype you.
So during the Hazel era, it was rough, but no, it's cool. It's cool. I like it. It gets everybody excited, man. So
I will say this
gets
past
the energy
week
up for the fourth.
when it was jam packed in there and everybody got into it Saturday, it was, I have to say, it was kind of cool. Everybody was getting into it.
Yeah, if the stadium's packed to the gills, it's awesome. But like Jake said, during the Hazel era, which I was there every home game, it was miserable. Great leg room, I'll say that. But like other than that, it stunk. Like it was not a good time. I do miss the leg room. That was nice.
What'd you guys do during the breakout at Virginia Tech?
Dude, so that's the thing is like we found out there were no laws in Blacksburg. You could do whatever you wanted to, because nobody knew what was going on. So they call the game. The game just starts. They call it, or they say go out into the concourse, and then they put out an announcement that's basically just saying leave the game. They're like, hey, exit the stadium, and nobody leaves. We're all just huddled shoulder to shoulder in this concourse for like 2 hours, and then people start to after a while. They keep pushing back the time. People start to leave and whatnot. And for like the first 2 or 3 hours, we just hung out in our area because we had no clue what was going on. We were all just like staring at this TV, waiting to get some kind of an announcement, which they didn't announce at all, that there was like concessions on the bottom, like on the first floor of the stadium on each side. And so we're on the top floor, like the top part of the stadium, starving after 3 hours, and all you hear on the broadcast or like the radio's like, yeah, and the football players are eating pizza right now in the locker room, and the media team's getting Chick-fil-A, and I was like, God, I'm so hungry. So we went and got food. We found the food, and then we just kind of walked around the campus a little bit. So we actually got to walk through like the famous tunnel at Lane Stadium. So we got to walk all the way down there, touch the Hokie Stone. Got to go into their basketball arena. Frank was like working for a view from my seat and just checking out all the different angles and taking pictures of like, where the different seats are in the stadium. But yeah, no, we just kind of hung out, just check out.
My favorite part is when you guys sent the pictures of you guys hitting the Hokie Stone of the tunnel. And I was like, who hooked you up with that? And Chris, I think, was like, oh, we just walked down there. Like we just found our way into the tunnel.
Yeah, there's no one around. It's like, all right, I'm just going to walk in this tunnel and see what
That's
happens.
wild.
And just walk down there and
just walk in and look confident.
Yeah, I mean, no, there was like,
make it. I mean,
we saw the state trooper there at the end, and he was like, come on in. I was like, oh, okay, all right, we're just going to.
What was your favorite away game environment, Jake?
Ooh.
That's a question I had as well.
So there's an asterisk on this. I'll say I never played at Ohio State, Penn State, or Michigan. So
damn. Really?
Yeah, just the way the schedule worked out. So my favorite away game environment was probably Nebraska. Memorial Stadium's pretty nuts, 90,000 strong. They sell it every time. And they're like the nicest people too, which is pretty funny because after you go in there and beat them by 3 scores, they like thank you for it. It's like it's very different.
Very winnable game, huh?
Yeah. Then you go to Iowa and their fans are like the total opposite. Whereas the Nebraskas are like the nicest, Iowas are not.
That clip of Markel walking by and just going winnable game was like one of my favorite clips of all time. Another friend of the program.
Yeah, we had Markel. He was one of the first like former players we had on the show. And we were saying like, so man, what do you think about Nebraska getting a new coach? He's like, it kind of sucks, man. I can't really talk about this clip anymore. It's gonna kind of die out.
Markel can keep talking about it. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. And I remember Greg McManus, he's like a Purdue grad that lives in Nebraska. He was saying, he's like, oh no, they play it like he's like, I still talk about it all the time. He's like, I don't care who's coaching in Nebraska, I'm always gonna bring that up. So
Eric, the shoe isn't that great. But it's
honest question. I mean, you've played in a lot of games in Ross-Ade. I imagine you've been to a lot of games in Ross-Ade. You've played in other stadiums. How does the atmosphere compare? Because I really feel like Virginia Tech really exceeded Ross-Ade in the atmosphere department. Are other stadiums louder, more energetic? Like the best Ross-Ade versus the best like Nebraska environment. Let's say how does it stack up?
So I think the best Ross-Ade environment can go toe to toe with anybody. Now there's the volume aspect of like there's just stadiums that are bigger, and so because of that, like the volume changes, or it's just kind of different feel from there. But yeah, I mean Purdue night game environment, top tier. I'd put it on par with anybody.
Love that.
Anybody that I've been to, at least.
Yeah.
So the Ohio podcast said what? Those are like the biggest 3. I'm assuming he meant Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State.
Yeah, dude. I wish I could have played at them. I'm disappointed I missed out there too. It's just because they're all on the east side of the Big Ten.
He didn't make the schedule, unfortunately.
The shoe's okay. I mean,
so you are the third. You're the third former player that I've heard say that about Nebraska. That the place is a great place to play and that the fans are nice. Yeah, you're the third former player that has said that, which is a fascinating thing.
Say about us. Like, what do they say about Purdue fans? Makes you wonder. Well, yeah, we're pretty nice. I mean, I feel like we're a welcoming bunch, unless you're Indiana.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we're middle of the road. I don't think anybody has strong opinions of us, positive or negative.
We stay out of the way.
Well, I will say, so I'm going to address Russ's comment here. I'm not going to read it, but I will say that we sat next to some Iowa fans who could not believe that Purdue would say IU sucks. Like they held Purdue, they saw Purdue as being much better than that. And they just said, like, I would expect that from most other Big Ten schools, but not Purdue. I just thought that was really interesting. I'm like, what do people think about Purdue if that's the case? Yeah, this particular lady. It was like the most offensive thing she'd ever heard is the way she was acting. I'm like, you haven't been to many football games.
She hasn't been anywhere. If that's the most offensive thing she's
definitely not many Iowa games, that's for sure.
Well, and
you said she was an Iowa fan, right?
Yes, she was bragging about like we waved to sick children and all this stuff. So like she's definitely been to games. But I'm like, I've heard way worse things than that.
Dude, pull up the Noodles comment here, his most previous one, because I got it, dude. This swim coach, he led shout at the end of the third quarter. He was like the best person to ever lead shout in my experience ever. He got me so fired up to do shout at the end of the third quarter. It was like he was cutting a promo in the WWE. Like this dude was on another level. It was just incredible. He did absolutely, like, he got me so fired up to freaking do shout, and then Chris was laughing at me because I was doing shout at the game. But it's whatever.
My favorite shout, like hype person that I've ever experienced. Jake, you were a player at this time. Was actually Dave Shondell. Like he got Ross-Ade hyped. I think it was against Western Michigan. May have been the first game of the season. 2017, 2016, maybe.
16,
but like, yeah, 2016. It was
first game of the season. That was 15. That was way back.
15? Okay.
Yeah.
So you were on the roster, right, at that time?
I was. No? So I was a redshirt. I was a redshirt freshman at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remember, it was the end of the third quarter, and he's like, "Look how many points we have!" And was just screaming. He's like, "We have a football team!" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Whoa, okay." I didn't expect that.
One of my favorites was they had Katie and Tiller up in the press box. I think we were playing Marshall. It was years ago, and we're beating Marshall by like 30 or 40 or something crazy. And Tiller goes, bet you guys didn't know you were coming to a track meet. And the whole place just goes nuts. That's Neil Armstrong too. I saw Neil Armstrong do it once, which is really cool. But that quote by Tiller is one of my favorites.
Jake, so did you see like the post game like little speech that Walters gave the team after they beat Tech last like 2 weeks ago, where he was all fired up, talking about how they did great, they stayed into it and everything.
I
we were talking about like fans earlier, like Karens or whatever. There's a lot, not a lot, just loud people. There's a few loud people talking about how like, I can't believe he's cussing like that. I would never. And like getting so, I'm like, have you ever been in a football locker room before? Like,
apparently these people haven't gone anywhere if they haven't heard a coach drop an F-bomb.
Never been to a football game. Definitely.
Yeah,
right.
I drop F-bombs in the stands. Like, what are we doing? Damon, when you sat in my seats, was the commentator behind? Was he behind you? The guy that talks the entire game.
I think he was, but maybe he just wasn't feeling it. Maybe he didn't see you there and wasn't into it that day, because he only
game
like the fourth quarter. He was just like card drops back in the pocket.
Yeah, he acts like an ESPN scout is somewhere in the stands, and it's going to be like, "Guy, you can talk. Get on up here. Get to the press box." It's just the whole game. It's just like it used to be like O'Connell drops back, throws it to whoever, but 10 yards. Oh God. Oh, drove me nuts. My uncle, who's an older fella, the guy I go to games with, was one day turned around and said something, and I'd be like, "Uncle Louie, relax, like chill."
This one guy, he was just on a roller coaster ride the entire game. It was like if we didn't move the ball up on one play, he'd be like, "God, what did I even buy these season tickets for?" And then Card would throw a 30-yard bomb to Deion Burks. He'd be like, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about." It's like
I used to have guys sit right next to my seats who would be like, "This is miserable. Brahms lost or only won 7 games," and I'm like, "Where the hell have you been? Like, what? The 8 games is amazing. Like, that's a Super Bowl compared to what we've been dealing with." And there's like, I can fire Brahm, and just same thing. People saying firewall. It's ridiculous. It's just insane. Anyway, I digress.
So this Friday, we play Wisconsin. It's time. It's time for score predictions. Dylan,
it's not. What do you got?
Boilers
Dylan?
by 1 billion, and people actually think I mean Boilers win by 1 billion.
You get people upset when
I piss people off when I say Boilers by 1 billion, because like I don't mess with like score predictions. I don't hate it, but it's just not my thing. So I always drop, and we were on a Virginia Tech podcast a few weeks ago, and I dropped Boilers by 1 billion, and the guy was like, "You really think Purdue's going to win by 1 billion points?" And I said, "You're fucking right, I am." Like, yeah, absolutely.
What kind of question is that?
We're gonna go out there.
It was awkward to say the least. Yeah,
it really took me off guard. I was like, "Wait, this guy's taking me seriously. Nobody does that."
Then this the sideline Syracuse like Twitter account was like, "Who's gonna listen to this Homer garbage next time you guys are thinking when you pick these score predictions?" I was like,
who picks a team?
I was thinking, I was like, didn't I say like 28-24 or something? I was like, I didn't think it was that bad.
This guy says they're gonna win by 1 billion, and I'm like, yeah, because I literally mean it. What do we? No, that guy took it way too. The fact he listened to us and then came to our Twitter after the game to talk shit and just be like,
I appreciated the listen. It was nice.
Like, that was nice.
Thank you.
Appreciate
it. Damon, what do you think?
Man, okay. So I think it's hard for me to objectively give my opinion, because right now like I said earlier, I'm getting, I'm getting a little fired up about the game Friday. I'm excited about, could this be the game of the year that Walters gets like that marquee win on his, that he can stamp, especially beating Wisconsin at Ross-Ade. I feel like there's no bigger win of the season. Obviously, they could have some crazy game and beat like Michigan or something like that. But, to beat somebody who's had Purdue's card for the last 20 years now would be absolutely massive. So I'll give 2 score predictions here to appease the people at home listening. So my heart right now where I'm at, I would love an upset. So I would say somewhere in the park of like, because Purdue's been doing a good job of getting up there in the points this year. So I'm going to say something like, 31, 24, 31, 28 or something like that. Now, I also think that Purdue could, is easily, depends on the rush defense. And you actually mentioned Mordecai leading their team in rushing against Wazoo. So if Mordecai can, handle the pocket collapse and run the ball forward, if Purdue hasn't been able to figure out how to counteract that, depending on what they've learned from the game against Syracuse, I could see it being a Wisconsin win as well. So I'm kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Jake, what do you think?
I think it's gonna be close. I think I agree with Damon. If this will be huge for Coach Walters, he pulls this one off. I like our chances. Of course, going to predict a Boiler win. I think it's gonna be close. I'm gonna go with 28-24.
I like it.
So I was going to guess 28-21. I like your prediction a lot. I think that Purdue has shown that they can stop the run. And by run, I don't mean quarterback scrambling, like we saw last week. Those are a little bit different play designs. What do we hold Virginia Tech to, like 16 rushing yards or something like that? But I just think that Purdue has shown that like we can stop the run. I just don't know how the defensive line depth is going to hold up, but I think as long as the attendance is there, I know I've seen a lot of, I'm selling my tickets, I'm not going to another game. I've seen a lot of that. I think as long as the attendance is there and the crowd's there, I think 28-24 is fairly realistic, and I'm gonna stick by that. I'm gonna address some comments here.
I was trying to book a hotel room last night, and everywhere is sold out. So I don't think.
Okay, great.
Oh yeah, I had to get a hotel in Crawfordsville. So
I usually stay in Indy. It's like halfway back from me, so they're half-ish way back. So we got a comment here. We struggle to stop the run, but more Tracy and better use of mock train gets the offense rolling again. 31-30 Boilers. Curses ended. A couch is burned. Love it.
This Russ Johnson guy's really good in the comments.
Yeah, the comment here from Cody. I was telling my wife last Saturday night that I would love to be a fly on the wall and listen to what Coach had to say. Here we go. Who coaches Wisconsin again? That's right, a former Buckeye. Badgers by, just kidding. Boilers by a billion. Love it.
There you go, Eric. Attaboy.
Here we have 42-31. Coach Walters ends the winless streak.
I love it. I would love to see Purdue put 42 up against Wisconsin. That would be crazy.
Well, how much pressure do you think do you think that this is a game that he has circled like in his mind? I mean, because his first day on the job, he gives Devin Mockabee a scholarship as a way to like win over the fans. But what a better way to win over the fans than to beat Wisconsin?
Dude, if they beat Wisconsin, they could literally go 2-10 this year, and everybody would be like, "We beat Wisconsin, guys. Who cares?" Actually, 3-9. Let's beat Wisconsin and IU, and then there's nothing anybody.
Add 4. Let's do Ohio State while we're at it.
Yeah, I would love to win more than 3 games. That would be great. I'd be really happy.
But I'm just saying though, like you beat Wisconsin. I mean, yeah, like you said, that's a huge marquee win. Definitely something that will get the fans behind, even when there's some hiccups, within the first year. I mean, this could be a turning point, or this could just be another like, hey, we're learning more about our team, we're learning our strengths and weaknesses, and we're going back to the drawing board. So, the thing though about this team is I don't foresee and I don't want to say it and not have to knock on wood, but I don't foresee like a quote unquote like blowout of any kind. I think this is a very resilient team, a team that I think they do adjust in the game, and I think it shows. I think it was it against Syracuse where they moved Burks into the slot and started to have some more success with him over the middle. With Abdul Yassine as well. I mean, I felt like, from watching in the stands, you could see the adjustments that they were making. And you could tell that it was working again. I think we just got bit by some weird turnover bug Saturday. That was not something that is consistent with this team, at least not so far this year. I think it was just a really odd night. So, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, and not only that, I mean, it was everybody. I mean, Mockabee, he lost 3 of them, I think. And, Deion Burks with the 200 IQ play to purposely, it was totally on purpose too, purposely set his hand out of bounds while his hand was on the ball. I mean, that totally wasn't just awesome. Like a freak thing. That was, yeah. Because they I was watching at home and it went to commercial. I'm like, okay, turnover, and they come back and they're like, hold on, we may have a something to look at here, and I was shocked.
That's
by
how it
that.
was in the stands too, because everybody thought it was for a while. We all thought it was just a turnover, and it you could kind of feel the air just get sucked out of the building or the stadium, and then it just got brought back to life again when we had the ball. So,
yeah, that was such a heads up play. That's something that coaches usually harp on. Is like the beginning of the year or like throughout the year, they'll kind of bring up like what are different rule changes, or like what's this rule that you may not know about or like that you should, and like that would be one of them. Another example is like if the ball did that on a kickoff and just sat right there, you could do the same thing, and now that's a kick out of bounds.
Huh.
Oh, there was a famous play in the NFL.
Yeah,
Packer was a Packers player, right? His name escapes me, but yeah, he like stepped out of bounds and grabbed the ball, right?
yeah, and the ball was like pretty far from the sideline, so he had to like lay down and put
Yeah.
his foot out of bounds and then grab the ball.
And like even the announcers were like, "That was a brilliant play." And like I don't, yeah, that was the first time I had heard of that rule. And I learned last night in the NFL, fumbles are different on fourth downs. Only the person who fumbles the ball can advance it forward on fourth down. So you can't fumble the ball forward and have another teammate recover it on fourth down. Fascinating. Learned that last night.
I feel like it'd be very hard if you fumbled the ball to then get up after you've probably got like a pile of people on you, go pick up the football. But yeah.
So if someone else recovers it past the first down line, what's the?
So it's the ball is spotted at the spot of the fumble.
Okay.
So if we're on a team, I fumble the ball forward, Damon can't recover it and advance the ball on fourth down.
I just imagine
but
like
I could if
I just imagine like my teammates circling the ball, being like, "Come on, Damon, get up!" And I'm like trying to crawl out of this like pile of defenders.
Give me a minute. I got a 300-pounder on my back. Like, what do
Right.
But the reason it was being asked was, the Steelers last night, where it was a 2-point conversion, which actually counted as a first down, where Najee Harris fumbled the ball into the end zone and it was recovered by another Steelers player. That's how that came up. So
that's so weird.
This is what I do. I read NFL rule books during games to look up obscure rules.
That's why you're the big brain. I mean, that's why you're the best.
It was just like when I had to Google the rule about high stepping into the end zone when we got a pick six.
God forbid
but it is explicitly stated you cannot high step. I mean, it's not. There's no ambiguity to it at all.
But I feel like there needs to be an objective, like what is a high step? Because if you look at the replay, Jalen Graham's legs barely like go above.
He high stepped. He high stepped. I mean, he did. As much as I wanted that touchdown, he high stepped. But it's just like we still don't know what a catch is.
I need a height. I need an exact.
Yeah, how high is a high step, man?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Mid step.
Yeah, like do like the knees must cross the plane of the waist, right? Like it should be clearly stated. But I think it was described as blatantly altering your stride, which I mean, Rondale Moore would high step, but yeah. So he did it more for a reason versus like showboating. I think that's the difference.
Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up here. I know we're kind of past our hour mark and everything, but just want to say a big shout out to everybody that's tuned in tonight. Just been absolutely incredible. All the listener interactions. Love all you guys and appreciate your listening, even if you're here to just bag on us and make fun of us at the end of the day. We still appreciate you.
Thanks to our number one fan, Russ Johnson, for being in the comments all night.
Right, Russ, we'll have to have you on the show sometime, man. Seem like a great guy. So
I wouldn't go that far.
But again, big shout out to our partners over at Big Banner Sports. Go check out bigbannersports.com where they have every Big Ten team covered, which they do have work to do as we're bringing in a whole slew of teams starting next year with Oregon and Washington and UCLA and USC and all that stuff. But I'm sure they'll get it done soon. But anyway, big shout out to them. Check out all the podcasts, and then a huge shout out to our sponsors at Cincy Blitzboards. Again, fantastic guys, fantastic product that you can take everywhere, tailgates, parties, wherever. It's a great time. It's really fun, actually. It gets pretty intense, so it's a great time. And of course, Jake, thank you so much for coming on to the show tonight, man. It was great having you on. Great talking to Purdue and hearing your thoughts on things.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you guys having me on, man. It's always good to get on here and talk ball. So, yeah, it was good hanging out.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, boiler up, beat Wisconsin, and we'll see you next week.